All right, good evening and welcome to the May 6, 2025 City Council regular hybrid meeting. I'm Mayor Salim Neese, and this evening's hybrid City Council meeting is being brought to you in person and by Zoom, and we're also broadcasting live on MITV Channel 21 and the city's YouTube channel. Welcome and thanks for joining us tonight. Council members, please have your microphones turned on for roll call. City Clerk Andrea Larson, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andral.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Weicker has not arrived yet. Councilmember Weinberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Here.
And Mayor Neese.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And City Clerk, can you please note that Councilmember Reynolds has joined us remotely via Zoom. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're in council chambers, please stand and face the flag. If you've joined by video, please turn off your video. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we now move to approval of tonight's agenda. If there's no questions, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So, second.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum, seconded by Councilmember Weinberg. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral. Aye. Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
And Councilmember Weicker is still absent.
Okay, motion passes, agenda is approved, and next up we have the City Manager report, for which we welcome City Manager Jesse Baum.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Today is Tuesday, May 6th. It is Mother Nature's cruel joke on us that the sun is out and here we are inside. Let's get started. Thank you, Casey. Next slide, please. Council, just a quick look ahead at our schedule. A reminder that you have your next regular meeting on Tuesday, May 20th. We have a utility board meeting next week. Our calendars for upcoming board and commission meetings is updated on our website at the link at the bottom of the screen there. Next slide. Have kind of a wide range of updates here. So let's start with a reminder that our recruitment for board and commissions is underway. We will be accepting applications through May 9th. That is this week, coming up fast. We have a handful of positions open, one position on the Arts Council, 2 on the Design Commission. The Open Space Conservancy Trust has 2 positions, Parks and Rec Commission 2 positions, and Utility Board has 4 positions. I believe the large number there is due to a resignation. So I encourage everyone that is interested to get their applications in. Council will be bringing those applications to you soon for appointment for the next year. Next slide. I wanted to mention last week on May 1st, officers were dispatched to an occupied residential burglary in the 4600 block of East Mercer Way. Council, you have been receiving emails, as have I and the police chief, about this matter. The resident, one of the residents was home, heard intruders, called 911. The suspect or suspects fled before police arrived. We do have an ID on the vehicle. This case is a regional case. It's potentially linked to an organized pattern of crime. We believe that the home was targeted and the investigation remains active. Wanted to mention that you all have received emails inquiring about the follow-up presentation on flock cameras for the on and off ramps. I'll be coming to you on May 20th with a work plan update, and that is something that I'd like to talk to you about when we'll schedule that follow-up discussion. Please continue to direct inquiries to myself and the police chief. Next slide, please. Switching gears, a couple updates on capital projects. If you came through the town center today, you'll see that the new parking facility in the town center at the former Tully site is starting to take shape. We poured all the new, well, not me, the contractors poured all of the new sidewalks within the parking facility, and on 27th last week, they're working on the bottom lift of the hot mix asphalt right now. In fact, some of it went down today. You can see that photo there. We are still on track to be substantially complete with this project by the end of June and an anticipated July opening. Next slide, please. Also, the water reservoir, this is some good news. It's always a little stressful when we take one of our water tanks offline, but that has been the case for the last several months. We've been working on improvements to the interior and exterior coatings of one of the reservoirs. It's the South Reservoir. We finished the other reservoir last year. It is undergoing final cleaning and disinfection this week, and then it will be refilled. We have to go through a pretty long testing process, and then it will be brought back online just in time for the heavy water use and summer season. All right, next slide. A reminder that we are in an important planning phase for Dean's Children's Park. This is the playground area where we have several play structures that are due for replacement. We have a picnic shelter that's in poor condition and due for replacement, and also restrooms that are due for replacement. We're working right now with the Parks Commission and our community to gather feedback on the vision for the park with the hope that we will have a new plan in place in the coming months that will inform our next phase of capital improvements. One important piece to mention about this redesign and this reimagining Dean's Children's is that we are working towards an accessible and inclusive play area. The grades here are quite friendly and will allow for those types of upgrades to be made. We have a survey open right now. The link is there on the screen. And I also heard today from the staff that we are working on getting out to the elementary schools to get some feedback directly from the youth in the community. So that's pretty fun. More to come on that project. All right. Turf. This is our favorite topic around the city right now. If you drive around, or maybe even in your own yard, you've had pretty serious turf damage the last year or two. This is due to the European chafer beetles that are living in our turf. And while they don't cause the damage, it's the raccoons and crows that are causing the damage. We had pretty extensive turf damage down at the South Mercer playfields and in most of our parks over the last season. The crews have been out repairing the turf. It looks a lot better. That involves, aerating, reseeding. They are trying a different type of grass with the hopes that will help. As I just mentioned, aerating and fertilizing to improve our soil health, and then also keeping an eye on mowing heights and irrigation. This is something we're going to continue to work. This problem's not going away. We have some other things in the toolbox that we will try. So that picture there is a before and after restoration efforts. And as we continue to find what's working for the city, we'll be sharing it with the community because we know many backyards are also suffering the same damage. Next slide, please. Positive news. I want to give a shout out to our partners at Islander Middle School who hosted 2 assemblies focused on bike and e-bike safety. As you're well aware, City Council, the use of e-bikes on the island has grown exponentially over the last 2 years. Many of our community members have been raising concerns about safety issues and speeds on the island. We've been working on a communications campaign over the last year to inform people about the bikes they're riding. In some cases, they're not bikes, they're actually e-motorcycles. This partnership has involved a close collaboration with the school district, the PTAs, and more recently, the middle school. The assembly that we just participated in, there were games, presentations, some challenges, and we also went over the rules of the road when it came to e-bike safety. So we hope the youth that attended those programs will carry that forward and be safe riders on our streets. We have a website dedicated to e-bike safety, and with the weather heating up, we will continue to push out information to the community to keep them informed. All right, some upcoming events. Pause on Patrol. This is happening during your next City Council meeting, but it's worth mentioning on May 20th at 5:00 p.m. We're inviting community members with or without their pooches to come out at 5:00 p.m. at Rotary Park for a Pause on Patrol meetup and training. Crime prevention on the island is a partnership between the police department, our community members, and our businesses. And for all the people that are out walking every day, we appreciate their eyes and ears on things and encourage them reporting when they see something that is out of the ordinary. Again, this is open to people with or without pets, and we have a website dedicated to this program. The link is there at the bottom of the screen. Next slide. All right, a few good news. We've been running a family movie night once a month here at the community center, and it continues to sell out. We just had a great event last Friday. We had popcorn, refreshments, and other snacks. The movie was How to Train Your Dragon. We had approximately 70 people participate. So thanks to the community center for continuing to offer free community programs to the Mercer Island residents. Next slide, please. Hey, it's Municipal Clerks Week. I don't think Andrea knew we included her picture on this slide. Want to give a shout out. We have 2 city clerks at the city, Andrea Larson, who is sitting to my right, and Deb Estrada, who's our deputy city clerk. I tell you, these 2 fabulous professionals are the glue that keeps much of the city running. We thank them for all that they do, not only for us, for the council, but also for the community. So thank you, Andrea and Deb. Next slide, please. And that is it. There we go.
All right. Our next item of business is appearances, which is an opportunity for anyone to speak to the city council on any item except items requiring a public hearing, any quasi-judicial matters, any campaign-related matters. I'll note that there's 2 public hearings later on the agenda, and if your comments pertain to ordinance number 25C07 or ordinance number 25C08, please hold your comments till the public hearing. Tonight's agenda will include in-person public appearances and remote public appearances via Zoom. Individuals wishing to address the council may do so in person or Zoom or telephone, provided they've registered with the city clerk by 4 p.m. today. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be called by name. Remarks must be addressed to the council as a whole, not to individual council or staff members. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks who becomes boisterous, threatening, or personally abusive while addressing the city council may be requested to leave the meeting. Please speak audibly, state your name and city of residence for the record. There'll be a timer on the screen. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. When your time's ended, I'll thank you for your comments. Move to the next speaker or item of business. City Clerk, please call the first speaker.
Mr. Mayor, the first speaker is Addie Smith. I do not see her in the meeting. I'll move to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Nicole Bernardi. And you can just go to the podium.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, great. Hi. Thank you so much for the chance to speak. I'm a longtime resident of the island. I grew up here. And before I raise my issue, I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. I've lived in a bunch of places, but I keep coming back to the island, and I hope to raise my own family here. It's a beautiful, safe, just lovely place to be. So thank you. Because of that, I care deeply about our community being safe and having well-being. So when I see hazardous road conditions where I live, I get worried, and I thought I would bring this to the City Council. It's my first meeting to attend. I live on West Mercer, 5 minutes or so from the on-ramp that goes to I-90 West, and we live near a blind corner, and there's a lot of those on the island. We have pretty windy roads. I've noticed more and more unsafe driving by cars. So cars take that road pretty quickly, that corner. They often come over into the pedestrian side. There used to be pretty clear road pavement markers. A lot of those have been damaged or disappeared. So I honestly don't know if a lot of drivers, as they take those turns, even know that there might be somebody walking. I've actually stopped walking on West Mercer in that area because I'm afraid I'll get hit by a car. I've seen a lot of near misses. Fortunately, nothing has happened, but I'm worried that one day someone will get hit by a car and it will be really devastating for that person. I'm not here just to complain and raise an issue. I wanted to propose some ideas, and I don't know how this works, if this is interactive. So I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Just some initial ideas on my end would be additional signage, anything that lets drivers know that people may be walking. Perhaps police presence, lookout activity, just letting people know that there are eyes on the road, and maybe also repair and reinstallation of those road pavement markers, just that bump, bump, bump that lets drivers know that, hey, this is a different area, not my lane, I should be careful. So I'd love to hear what you think, and thank you very much.
Okay. We don't really do that, but
Okay,
if
then.
anybody has any questions, I think that we got
Great.
an email from you, and maybe we can.
And I've been talking with Andrea, and I'll follow up with her.
That would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other appearances?
There are no further speakers tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. With that, we'll move to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains AB 6668, April 10, 2025 payroll certification, AB 6669, April 2025 payroll certification, AB 6670, certification for claims paid March 16, 2025 through March 31, 2025, City Council regular hybrid meeting minutes of April 15, 2025, AB 6671, Affordable Housing Week proclamation number 358, AB 6672, City Code update regarding utility billing policies, second reading ordinance of number 25C09, and adoption of utility billing manual, resolution number 1675. AB 6673, process and timeline for filing vacant City Council position number 7. AB 6678, Town Center parking regulations, resolution number 1676, and second reading of ordinance number 25C03. AB 6689, joint letter to FEMA in support of the appeal of the denial of the Washington State Major Disaster Declaration in response to the November 2024 bomb cyclone. Council, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Weinberg, seconded by Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
And Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion passes. Consent agenda is approved. And our first item of regular business is AB 6674, the PSRC General Assembly Voting Delegate. Council, the PSRC General Assembly meeting will be held May 22, 2025. And I've asked for volunteers. I sent out an email. I got, I think, a reply back from Councilmember Weinberg. I don't know if anybody else replied because I haven't looked at my email. Not seeing any other takers. Is anybody opposed to letting Councilmember Weinberg be the voting delegate? Not
So
seeing
moved.
any okay, moved. All right, so it's moved by Councilmember, or Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum and seconded by Councilmember Weicker to appoint Councilmember Weinberg as the voting delegate at the PSRC General Assembly on May 22, 2025. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
And Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. The motion is approved. Our next item of regular business is AB 6675, the public hearing for ordinance to renew interim regulations for temporary uses and structures, including outdoor dining. This public hearing is now open as of 5:18 p.m. Individuals who registered with the city clerk's office before 4 p.m. today may make a public comment on this agenda item. You'll be called by name when it's your turn to speak. Speak audibly, state your name and city of residence for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. City Clerk, anyone signed up for public testimony tonight?
Mr. Mayor, there was no one who signed up to speak during the public hearing.
Okay, as there's no further testimony this evening, the public portion of this hearing is closed as of 5:18 p.m. And we welcome Deputy Director, CPD Director Jeff Thomas. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. For the record, Jeff Thomas with Planning. Joining me is Senior Planner Molly McGuire. We have a very short presentation for you on this subject for you this evening in first reading of an ordinance. The one comment I will make is, before Molly gets going here, permanent regulations for temporary uses and structures, that is in process right now with the Planning Commission. We're hopeful that this will be the last renewal of these regulations that we'll need to do before bringing these permanent regulations later this year for your consideration and hopefully adoption. With that, Molly, go ahead and take it away.
Great, thank you. All right. So some quick background. I won't spend too much time on it, but this was initially started in 2024 with the addition of 2 proposals from the city and the Mercer Island Country Club to the docket to establish temporary use and structure regulations. Interim regulations were adopted on June 4th of 2024 for 1 year, and those also included the regulations for outdoor dining as a temporary use, which were originally established in 2020. Oh, go back. Since this adoption, 4 temporary use permits have been issued under these interim regulations. So as Jeff said, the Planning Commission had a briefing in February of this year And then the public hearing is scheduled for June 10th. Because this date is after the date of expiration on June 4th, we would need to renew these interim regulations with no proposed changes while these permanent regulations are being developed. As a quick reminder, the interim regulations do two things. The first is to add a new code section, which establishes when a temporary use permit is required, puts it as a type 1 land use review, exemptions from permits, criteria for approval, time limitations, standards for removal and assurance devices. And it also has the interim regulations for outdoor dining, which includes outdoor dining as a temporary use and waives the minimum parking requirements to facilitate this. And as I said earlier, these were originally adopted in 2020 and then folded into the temporary use regulations last year. So the recommended action here is to move to schedule the second reading of ordinance number 25C07 for May 20th, 2025.
Okay, thank you for that. Council, any questions?
So moved.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Oh. All right, we're tonight I can see we're moving and seconding motions that haven't been entered in the record. So for the record, is there a motion to schedule a second reading of ordinance 25C07 for May 20, 2025?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Anderall, seconded by Councilmember Weicker. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Neese,
Aye.
Councilmember Andral,
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum,
Aye.
and Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion passes. It takes us to our next item of regular business, which is AB 6676, public hearing for ordinance to renew interim regulations, residential parking regulations responsive to SB 6015. This public hearing is now open as of 5:22 p.m. Individuals who register with the city clerk office before 4 p.m. today may make public comment on this agenda item. You'll be called by name when it's your turn to speak. Please speak audibly, state your name and city of residence for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. City Clerk, anyone signed up for public comment tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, as there's no further testimony this evening, the public portion of this hearing is closed as of 5:23 p.m., and we once again welcome CPD Director Jeff Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeff and Molly again. One comment on this before Molly walks you through a similarly short presentation. This subject matter is pending on our work program right now, so we have not initiated a permanent code process with the Planning Commission as of yet. But so in all likelihood, you will see one more renewal on this one later in the year. But we are working our way through the list of items. So with that, Molly, go ahead and take it away again.
Great, thanks again. So again, we'll start with some quick background. The Washington State Legislature passed Senate Bill 6015 in March of last year with an effective date of June 6th. So in order to comply with this timeline, City Council adopted an emergency ordinance for interim regulations on June 4th, 2024 for 1 year. And so in order to remain in compliance with Senate Bill 6015, this should be renewed with no changes. Senate Bill 6015 kind of reforms what counts as a parking space for the purposes of minimum parking requirements, including things like not requiring covered or enclosed parking, allowing tandem parking to be counted at a ratio, and requirements around materials and size of the parking space. And so this resulted in quite a few changes to the residential parking standards in the Mercer Island City Code to comply. And in January of this year, the Department of Commerce did release some additional guidance, which is further detailed in the agenda bill. But this will need to be renewed and incorporated into the permanent regulations as necessary once we get to those. So again, the recommended action is to schedule the second reading of ordinance 25C08 for May 20th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? All right, is there a motion to schedule a second reading of ordinance number 25C08 for May 20, 2025?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Weinberg, seconded by Councilmember Anderall. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum,
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Aye.
Councilmember Andral,
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker,
Aye.
and Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, our next item of regular business is AB 6677, Public Safety and Maintenance Facilities Design Choices, and we welcome City Manager Jesse Dwan. 2 minutes, granted. We'll be in recess for 2 minutes. Okay, welcome back to the May 6, 2025 City Council meeting. We are returning from a longer than expected recess, waiting for some consultants to get through the King County sewer line traffic. And we are all here. And so we are going to pick up where we left off, AB 6677, Public Safety and Maintenance Facility Design Choices, AB, and we welcome City Manager Jesse Bond and a slew of other folks.
Good evening again, City Council. Thank you for your patience. Tonight, we are following up with you on some items that we introduced back in February. I will describe them as design alternatives. We are looking forward to a discussion tonight and direction from the council on whether or not you would like us to include these items in your schematic design for your public safety and maintenance facility project. We are looking for direction tonight because when we come back to you in June, we will have an updated schematic design and a cost estimate. So we are trying to stick on our schedule here. With that, I will introduce our consulting team. I think Robbie Cunningham Adams is here tonight. He's driving the slide deck. And I will let our consultants introduce themselves.
Good evening. I'm Aaron Young, partner with Northwest Studio. We're the lead architects and urban designers for the project.
And I'm Tony Marino with PAE Engineers. I'm an associate principal there. I am the mechanical EUR on the project.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you again this evening. Apologize for the tardiness of our arrival. On the agenda tonight, we'd like to walk through three things. The first is just a refresher on the initial planning overview so we can kind of set us all in the same frame. Then talk through some building systems resiliency planning, including the potential for solar power generation, rainwater harvesting and reuse, emergency potable water storage, and then give you a window into the mass timber, steel, and concrete structural systems that are in review for the project. Just to orient everyone as a part of the conversation, this is the existing city-owned site. North is to the right on this page with Southeast 36th Street, the former City Hall, indicating the location of the temporary MIPD facilities, the operations building, and 40th Street to the south. Next. The facility site plan that we reviewed with you last month includes organizing the vast majority of the facilities on the southeast of the site. You can see the PSM building and operations building and covered operational areas located just south of staff parking off of Southeast 36th, with lower and upper yard public works operations functions located on the western portions of the site. Next. This overhead illustrative view gives us an idea of the organization of the building masses across the site. Next. And again, this diagram illustrates the buildings and covered areas as if you were looking at them from the eastern side, with the public parking at the far right, the PSM building, the roof structure that provides weathering cover for public works vehicles and operations and equipment, their operations building, and then parking and fueling stations located towards the south. Next. When we talk about building systems resiliency planning, like we said, we'll talk about three things, the first of which will be solar power generation. Next. This project is a good candidate for roof-mounted solar power generation. That would have the effect of increasing some emergency resiliency and potentially lowering operational energy costs. This is a solar radiation analysis that illustrates solar availability across the proposed PSM roof surfaces and the adjacent site. Now, this analysis is an aggregate of an annualized solar radiation exposure across the site. And just for context, it is relative to its position in the globe, its position in latitude and longitude, the elevation at which the roofs are located, and the topography around the site. And on a scale of sort of 0 to 100% for this particular site, we can see that the highest portion of solar gain for the horizontal or slope surfaces on the site are the southern-facing facility roof and portions of the northern roof and the staff and public parking areas. Next. In terms of potential solar array system sizes, we have looked at 3 different configurations. The first was a limited solar system that's located on the southern sloping roof only. That solar system is limited to that roof, and the area could achieve approximately 63% of total estimated annual energy need of the facility at completion. The second is an expanded solar array that's located on the south-facing roof with additional panels located on the northern roof that are sized to provide up to 100% of the estimated annual energy need of the facility at the time of completion. And then the third, the benchmark, was no solar system installed on the facility as designed. Next. When we begin to look at the cost benefit of installing a solar system for the project, we look at a number of categories. Potential cost savings over the system cost, support for operations during power emergencies, and support for Mercer Island's adopted policies. This first table outlines high-level energy needs, power contributions, and 25-year energy cost and potential cost savings, capital costs and maintenance costs to arrive at a capital cost versus savings value located at the bottom of the table. When we review the limited solar array on the southern roof, what we see is that is generating approximately 63% of energy needs for the facility, arriving at a 25-year energy savings of about $975,000 over the cost to the city otherwise. The system capital cost is about $1.4 million. The 25-year maintenance cost is estimated at about $200,000 for a difference of about $617,000. The expanded solar array, which would be designed to cover 100% of the estimated energy consumption at completion, would arrive at a 25-year solar energy cost savings of about $1.445 million, with a total system capital cost of just under $2.2 million. And again, 25-year maintenance cost is really steady at about $200,000 for a capital cost difference over savings of about $950,000. And the no solar system added to the building without any solar system arrives at a 25-year energy cost to the city of about $1.6 million. Now, these calculations are based on several PSC energy utility rate schedules. They're based on a 25-year performance period to align with industry standard performance warranties. The calculations include a 0.45% annual degradation in solar panel performance. That's based on example panels, performance, and warranty metrics. The system capital cost is based on a current systems cost range of around $3 per watt. Now that can vary depending on the way the panels are installed, what other apparatus they might need to angle towards the sun, which in fact is why the south-facing roof works to our advantage, because they can be flat panels not mounted on any angled brackets. The potential to supply 100% of facility energy needs, the calculations include estimated performance degradation of solar panels per the note above. Also in the cost-benefit analysis, we begin to look at things like emergency power support. An on-site solar power generation would have the benefit of extending operation of the facility during power outages. The project, as of now, incorporates a diesel-powered generator sized to power the facility for up to 7 days. On-site power generation could extend that duration by approximately 30% from 7 days to 10 days under normal power usage, and longer durations may be possible through reduced power usage, if possible, during emergencies. When we talk about policy support, on-site power generation does support Mercer Island's adopted climate action plan goals in the cross-cutting and municipal focus area. Specifically action CC 2.7, which is municipal renewable energy storage, which as a goal identifies expanded solar installation and building renewable energy sources on city property. With EV charging for future fleet vehicles, the following slides will indicate the summer season capacity for EV charging. If utilized in lieu of any form of net metering, study configurations are expandable to incorporate future EV charging during those months with excess capacity. And just one other note on EV charging for vehicles. EV charging canopies in public parking lots are really evolving in terms of their efficiency and cost competitiveness. We would recommend, if those are of interest, that potential systems should be reviewed closer to public parking construction, as those are really changing every 3 to 6 months and advancing. Costs are coming down as well. Reviewed at that time to leverage advances in those products rather than allocating that at this time. I'm going to hand this off to Tony to describe some of the details in the calculations.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So this slide we're looking at here is kind of giving us the estimates of the energy usage for the entire project. We made some assumptions at this early stage of the project to come up with the energy usage. For the PSM building, we're using similar building types that PAE has worked on in similar climates, Western Washington, Seattle type projects. For the ops building, this is more using some catalog data on different maintenance type buildings for the energy usage. We haven't developed an energy model at this point. We will as we develop the project further. So this is just using our experience and similar buildings to come up with some energy usage. You can see that the PSM building has an energy EUI of 41. That's going to be our highest energy use. 25 for the ops building and the operations building 1. So not very much energy there. Later slides we'll see how the whole project is used for energy. When it comes to the energy costs for both our just power what we're paying, but also on the payback for the solar, we're using some PRSC information that we could find online. I think since then we found a little bit more information that I don't think we've fully baked into this presentation, but the rates that we found online may not be the same that the city pays for power. So these numbers would scale with those. Another thing that we'd have to look at is the net metering agreement that the city may have that's outside of what we're used to for non-public projects, where anything over 100 kilowatt solar array panels, which we would have in both of our options, they would pay you back only about 75% of what you pay for power. So under 100 kilowatt systems, you would get paid back. If you gave them power, they pay the same amount that you're buying for. Over 100 kilowatts, they pay you slightly less, so roughly 6 cents per kilowatt hour versus what you pay is 8 cents per kilowatt hour. So there is a little bit of that baked into these analyses, but more research definitely on what the city actually will pay for power over the next 25 years. Next slide. So this is kind of giving us what the energy looks like once we incorporate the PV panels. So the no solar, we'll start on that right side of 37, is once you bring all the buildings together. So that would be our overall energy usage. The expanded solar, that would be 0. That's what we're sizing it based on. And the limited solar would come out at 14, just using that north face of the building.
And Tony, if I might just add one item. EUI, which Tony is referring to, is he mentioned it's the energy use intensity metric. That is also the metric that the city of Mercer Island would use for tracking Washington Clean Building compliance. Go ahead, Tony, sorry. Next.
Yep, we can go to the next slide. So this is kind of showing the usage over when we would be generating electricity. So if we're looking at the graphs, it's just the limited solar alternative and the expanded. So the bar graphs are showing what our usage is throughout the year, and the mound behind it is when we can actually produce that power. You'll notice at times during the winter we're not producing power when we need it. And so the way we get to this net zero is by the net metering, where we actually have to sell power back to the utility when we're producing but don't need to use it all. So you can see that the limited solar alternative doesn't produce too much more than it makes during the summer, but in the expanded solar alternative, there's quite a bit of power being made during the summer that we wouldn't be using. This is also, if you're looking at resiliency, if you have something like a battery backup in your building or a way to store that energy, you could potentially use your own energy that you're producing, save it overnight, so you could use it at when the sun's not shining, when it's cloudy outside. So you could actually use that as a resiliency, kind of to expand on the generator that was mentioned earlier. I think that might be our last solar slide.
Okay, I think that's a good point to pause for questions. Council, any questions? Councilmember Enroll.
Oh, yeah, I have a couple, but skipping ahead, are the solar options and the stormwater harvesting mutually exclusive, or can they be done together?
Each one is an independent decision.
Right, but I mean, if you do solar panels, can you still harvest stormwater?
Yes.
Or do you have to?
Yes.
Okay, so then I have a couple of other questions about the cost of the solar, but I'll wait until it's my next turn.
Okay, Councilor Weinberg.
Yeah, sure. So of the three options of doing just the southern roof, or doing the southern roof and part of the northern roof, or doing none at all, I'm clearly in favor of the middle option of doing the southern roof and part of the northern roof. And I wanted to see if we could explore what would be the cost savings if we were to use the excess power for charging electric vehicles, because I heard you say that we only get 75% or 75 cents on the dollar back when we do the net metering. But I presume if we use it for charging an electric vehicle, which more of our fleet's eventually going to be electric vehicles, that we get dollar for dollar, essentially, on that. And so assuming that in the next 25 years, we get enough electric vehicles to absorb all of the excess energy that's generated, which I'm not sure that's a correct assumption, but wanted to check that with you. Does that change the calculus in terms of the difference in cost between options 1 and 2? And do they actually cross over? Does option 2 actually become cheaper than option 1? But I'd be interested to see how the assumption of using it all for electric vehicles would change that. And I think similarly in that calculus, there was a question I had asked online that I got an answer to about the assumption of power costs remaining constant for 25 years. And given that power costs have doubled in the last 25 years, I think it's safe to assume that they will continue to climb at some rate over the next 25 years. It's hard to predict, of course, but we can certainly deal with a certain amount of uncertainty there. But I think assuming zero is probably less valid than assuming some amount of growth there. So it'd be interesting to know what is the crossover point at which the amount of electrical power growth, or electrical power cost growth, where the options 1 and 2 become equivalent. And we probably need to we would have to have a vote of the council in order to ask for such additional calculation.
We're looking for direction tonight.
Okay.
So if they can't answer your question, you're going to have to make your decision without that answer. If there was a question there that you want them to try and respond to, maybe.
So you're saying that that you would like to not have them do any additional calculation after tonight?
No, I didn't say that. I said that the city manager is looking for direction tonight on these design alternatives. Okay. So the council is going to have to opine absent those answers if they cannot answer them tonight.
Okay.
Or do you have any responses to any of that litany of questions?
I think one response would be, really as we look at slide 14, which indicated the PV production capacity overuse for certain peak times of year. I think, Councilmember, to your second question, it is certainly possible that utilizing some of that additional capacity during the excess generating months for charging of city fleet vehicles when those EV vehicles come online would certainly contribute to a reduction in the city's operating costs for providing power for that charging. At this time, I can't offer a guess as to how much, but I think we can certainly see that that excess capacity could be used in that fashion to lower costs.
So it would close the gap somewhat, at least, between options 1 and 2. We don't have a way of knowing tonight whether it actually crosses over to making option 2 cheaper, but it certainly would close the gap a little bit.
Correct.
Okay.
And would, if we had the time to do an additional analysis of the future growth of electricity costs, and if we assume that the future growth is not 0, I presume that would also close the gap some amount between the two, right?
I don't know that I could answer that definitively at this time.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Weinberg hit a lot of the things I wanted to hit on, but a new topic is, talk to me a little bit about the emergency power generation. I'm not an engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought of solar grids as typically, when they're designed on net metering, they're designed to feed back to the grid and not necessarily to the structure that the house is in. Is this actually going to be set so that if the power can be redirected to be used by the building rather than being sold to the grid?
Yeah, the priority would go to the building, not to the grid. If we were overproducing is when we would feed back to the grid. Without any type of battery storage, we would automatically feed that back to the grid, but if we did have battery storage, we would prioritize that over feeding the grid, and then utilize those batteries. Go ahead.
Is the technology such that, and I don't even know the scale or the units, but let's say you require 10 units of something to run the building at some point, and the solar panels are generating 6. Is it smart enough that it'll say, let's use that 6 and buy 4 more? Or do we just have to shut off, shut off things that don't work?
No, that's in fact what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Sort of an out-of-the-box question here, and I'm not sure you have an answer, but as we consider sort of this building versus our current facilities, do we know what how would this energy use compare if you were to sort of mash together everyone that will be in this building to where they are now? Do we have an idea of what the energy usage for our current use versus what this building is designed for?
Are you talking about all city buildings or former city hall?
No, well, I'm thinking of the folks, well, I guess it's sort of hard to answer because we, if you take police, for example, used to be in City Hall and other folks, but I'm trying to think as we think of how we should think about this project from an energy efficiency scale, in terms of, if you were to take a snapshot from where the city were 5 years ago versus where, we will hopefully be once this project is built. Do you have a sense of what that looks like from an energy efficiency element?
I don't believe we have the energy use calculations on our current facilities. And I guess if there's a reason you'd like a policy reason to try to get that information, I'm happy to work on it. If it's just, are you trying to compare like what we have now to what we're building?
Yeah, my sense is that, my hope is that a building that we build now would be far more energy efficient than what was built.
Right.
Yeah, so I will say that the facilities we have right now, the risk of stating something very obvious, are very old. They were built not to current code, energy-wise or other. They're also sized differently. This PSM facility is a little bit bigger than both City Hall and Public Works combined. Anything you want to add to that? I know we don't have the direct energy comparison
It's okay. I understand I'm asking for an apples to oranges comparison here, but I am sort of curious if there's any.
No, it's a good question, and I think that it's worth looking back in time a little bit, and Tony, feel free to correct me if I get anything wrong, but what we've seen over the last 10 to 15 years is a migration of building codes into much more energy efficient modes of operating a building after it's constructed. One great example is the requirement for 90% of all light fixtures to be LED, for example, or even higher. That seems like a small thing, but it's an enormous contributor to the power consumption of any building. We also find great advances in the insulation requirements for buildings, particularly in Washington State and in our region, given the Washington State, energy codes. Those contribute to dramatic reduction in energy consumption for heating and cooling loads throughout the building. And with advancing technologies in the way we organize building envelopes, like we extend that even further with actually a little less effort than when those codes were even initiated. So the advancements that have been made through codes and through building technology are absolutely being applied to this building. And when this building comes out of construction, it will, without a doubt, be, one of the most efficient of its type.
Aaron, while you're talking about building codes, since the question was posed by the council in advance of the meeting, can you talk about the requirement to put the infrastructure in place to solarize the building in the future, even if it's not done at the time of construction?
Yes, absolutely. So the Washington State Energy Code does require that you make the building essentially what we would call solar ready. So this means that, and you might be able to speak to this more, but this means that from everything from the main panels through spaces for conduit up to the roof, to the structure of the roof itself, have to be able to carry the capacity of those panels, have to be able to route that infrastructure and tie it into the building systems and potentially even to the grid at a future time. And that's a base condition that exists in the Energy Code.
Yeah, that's spot on.
Okay, Councilmember Weicker.
Fantastic. You're leading right into my point. And I had the benefit of working for PSC for over 10 years. My job was to evangelize energy efficiency and distributed generation, and this is a perfect opportunity for that. But looking at slide 10, I'm really concerned about the costs not meeting the benefits of this system at this point while we're designing it, and knowing that the future energy codes will require us at some point, or at least enable us to get there, should there be more credits coming through PSC or coming through the, I don't know why this is blipping out, coming through the state fund or federal funds or whatever, and who knows what tariffs are going to do in the next few years or whatever. I'm keenly aware of what this is going to cost, and we have to take it to the voters. So I fully support being solar ready and being EV fleet ready. But at this point, these numbers that put us in deficit before we even start for what is a noble goal for sure, but not cost effective at the moment, has me leaning towards no solar system, but being ready for it down the road for future investment when the technology is there, the infrastructure is there, the grants are there, all of the stars that need to align to make this more cost effective with hopefully more outside money than what we're going to ask our residents for here in November.
Excellent point. Quick question. I may not get an answer to it right now, but Bia may be able to look it up, and we can come back to it. We have a green energy deal that we signed with PSC for a wind farm where the 100% of the city's electricity is green. I'm concerned in some of the cost-saving estimates that our floor metering may be set at a contractual level and not be tied to any PSC rate structure. And maybe some of the cost savings that are built into that slide that you put together may not be materialized. Maybe somebody could look at that while we turn to some other questions and just see if the contract's clear on that. Councilmember Andro?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning with Wendy on this in terms of spending more than we get and benefit. It doesn't seem, always mindful that this is not my money. This is citizen money, and I want to be able to explain and justify that to them. So solar ready sounds great. Being in the hole after 25 years does not sound great. The question, so that's just a comment, but the question that I had is, on the notes on the calculations, one of the things that I did not see was cost to potentially replace any solar panels that might be damaged, and over a 25-year period, I will bet you at least the cost of the whole facility that there will be branches that fall on those solar panels and will need to be replaced. And I don't think that would probably be a warranty item. So, do you have enough experience in these types of installations over a long period of time to know what percentage might need to be replaced because of just a kind of no-fault damage?
Yeah, I'll just answer that with information that was provided on slide 10. In review with PAE of similar systems, we did include This is an $8,000 per year, which is very high, actual annual maintenance and replacement cost based on a system of this type.
Okay, I saw maintenance cost. I guess I missed that it included replacement.
Oh, sorry, it factors into that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Reynolds.
Yeah, and I'm very conscious of spending resident money on this. I'm going to refer to it as resident money rather than citizen money because there are a lot of non-citizens that live on the island that pay taxes as well. But having said that, I just have a question, which is, let's say we were comparing two scenarios. One where we built it the way option one is laying out, where there's south-facing roof only and infrastructure for the north. And then we did that, and then a year from now, we decided to add the panels on the north. How much more or less would that cost than doing the north panels to begin with? Like, do we have an efficiency gain by doing it all at once, or would it be about the same cost overall?
The efficiency gain would be more directly tied to potential escalation over time than to any scalar effect of the installation.
So it's no harder to staple the panels on a year from now than it is to staple them on today?
No.
Is what I'm hearing?
No.
Okay, thank you, that clarifies it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I do have Alana here if you'd like to come back to your question about our green power program.
Sure, yeah, if the answer is there, that'd be great. While they do that, you had said 30% increase solar could add to the 7 days of generator use. Is that really right? 30% of 7? Because that's like 2.1, gets you to 9. It's not closer to 10, it's closer to 9.
9.6. It's a benchmark based on an approximate 8 hours of solar gain per day, annualized over the year. So that fluctuation is really low in the winter, really high in the summer for the duration of the day. So sorry, that couldn't be more specific. 30% was the ballpark for extension, just based on daylight hours contributing to lessening the generator's runtime during that period.
Gotcha. But they could just bring more diesel too, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Alana Derogatis. I'm the Sustainability Program Manager for the city. Just had a little bit of information to answer some of the questions about the Green Direct contract that we have with PSE. So we are currently under contract through 2038 to be purchasing power from a wind farm. It's a 20-year contract, and we are in fact locked at lower rate increases than off the Green Direct, the standard commercial increases. So yes, so for those calculations, it would be slightly off, at least through 2038, but as their 25-year calculations, it would be hard to predict then what that change would be in that kind of interim period. So the numbers are going to be slightly off, but it would be really difficult, I think, to calculate exactly how that's going to
Did you
pan
see
out
a
over 25
minimum
years.
monthly purchase, minimum annual purchase in there?
I have not thoroughly re-reviewed the contract, and I'm not a legal expert, but I did not see anything specific related to that, like any sort of changes in terms of city buildings and purchasing the.
So I assume that when we shuttered City Hall, our electric spend went down?
We're still operating infrastructure in City Hall, so it's not zero.
Yeah, but has anybody kind of seen that it did go down?
It did go down a little bit.
All right, so council, Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, Aaron, if you can just expand a little bit, you said that the $8,000 a year cost was high. Was that relative to something else, or is that given that there's a lot of large trees in the area, or what?
It was related to the size of the array and the site conditions. I can't say that the trees factored into that necessarily, but we did. PA, and I'm telling you to speak to this, did include a conservative number for that annualized maintenance over what they see on other large-scale PV projects.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Councilmember Weicker.
One more question. Do you have any idea how energy storage is, what battery technology has changed in the last few years? Like, is there any scale battery storage, or is it all going back to PSE still? Like, the pilots that I heard about didn't take off.
So energy storage is becoming a thing, a lot more popular, and it is becoming more reasonable to install those in your buildings. The evaluation and calculations around it is a lot more in-depth than what we do for the PV panels when it comes to rule of thumb, using existing systems as examples. So we don't have a good feel on what size we would need for this building. It truly takes energy modeling of the entire building and getting a lot further down the line to come up with a microgrid solution, and to come up with some of the things that were brought up earlier about if we're selling back for less money and we're trying to use it for car charging, it really would taking a look at a total annual energy usage hour by hour calculation to see the size and the cost of something like that. But we are designing them and people are installing them, which means it is financially possible in some cases.
It's starting to happen.
Yep.
Okay, good to know.
City Manager Bond.
It helps that the Sustainability Program Manager is sitting next to me as she's flipping through tables. So the City Hall building itself, the energy use dropped by, electric use dropped by about half, but Public Works actually went up because we're operating with more staff there. So it's not a,
Makes sense.
yeah, it's not a apples and apples comparison.
Okay, so council, if there's no more further questions, I'm going to take thumbs up on what we want to do on just this solar item. And I'm going to start with thumbs up for the north and the south, if that's your desire. Okay, so I've got Ted on that one. If it's just the south, I'll do thumbs up. You can obviously vote twice. I've got 2 thumbs up for that. So we're going to go with provision for the future. Okay, what's the next item?
Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
Can I just
Alfred
make a
Rosenbaum.
quick comment here for future councils? Just a note for the record that I think Ted made some, Councilmember Wyber made some great points about that sort of crossover point. And I do hope that they will, when we do hit that crossover point, we'll take the next steps to put the necessary panels on the roof.
Sounds good. All right, moving on.
So the next item is to discuss the potential for stormwater harvesting across the roof surfaces of the building. These roof surfaces, as we mentioned, are capable of harvesting rainwater for on-site storage and reuse at vehicle and equipment wash stations, wheel wash areas, some general site maintenance, and even plumbing fixture flush valves, lowering the city's operational cost by reducing the demand and use of potable water. Stormwater cisterns may be located at either end of the roof with pipe connections to filtration systems at each facility, or the cisterns may be co-located in a central mechanical area, the operations building, for example, adjacent to systems filtrations with pipe connections from those catchment areas to individual buildings. Next. And looking at cost benefit for rainwater harvesting, we look at the cost savings over system cost and support for operations during water emergencies. The system costs and operational savings from no stormwater system really looks at a non-potable water need of 523,000 gallons roughly annually for an annual cost of about $19,400 with a 20-year cost of $388,000. With stormwater harvesting, the annual water harvesting capacity is about 388,000 gallons. The remaining water need of about 135,000 gallons, leaving the city with an annual cost of about $5,000, saving $14,000 annually, for a 20-year savings of about $288,000 with a $250,000 system cost. Now, this is based on a 10,000-gallon cistern, and we'll look at a slide in a moment that just shows that kind of the break point at which cistern size begins to make sense and have diminishing returns, for an estimated annual 20-year savings of about $38,000 over the installation cost. Now, when we talk about emergency water support, stormwater harvesting, in providing for functions like flush toilet valves or site water use, it begins to support the building's operation during water emergencies in the reuse of that storm water when water may or may not be available to the building.
Aaron, just to jump in, can you? I remember there's an update that we made kind of late yesterday on this that might be different from what's in the packet. Do you want to speak to that?
I do. My apologies, Council. In the stormwater harvesting column, The initial slide deck that was sent out included some errors in the numbers. Those had been transposed from a different column. So those had incorrectly indicated a 20-year savings of $138,000 instead of the correct number estimated at $38,000. Next.
So jumping into what the system would look like. I'll just kind of walk through the diagram. On the right side of that diagram, we're showing the rainwater collection from the roof. We've got a nice big roof, so a lot of rainwater can be collected. That water would be utilized for what we call a purple pipe system, flushing toilets, urinals, and then also car washing, which is it's a good chunk of what the water usage for this building would be as well. We're also showing that there's an emergency tank located in the building as well that we would utilize in the event that the power goes down or the water system goes down.
Sorry, which we will talk about as a separate item in a moment.
Yep. Next slide. And then similar to the PV graph, this is our water usage graph. So if you look at the bar graph side of it, it's showing our usage. It has the non-potable, the purplish color is everything that is being flushed, toilets, urinals. The potable water is the middle section there, and then the non-potable vehicle wash. So you'll see the vehicle wash is the smallest usage of the three, non-potable being the largest. And then anyone used to our weather can kind of relate to the rainwater, the amount of water we can collect. During the rainy season, the wintertime, the shoulder seasons, we're going to produce a lot more water, be able to collect, or have a lot more water available to collect than when we hit the June, July, and August side of things, when it dries up, when we really need a lot of water for irrigation and other things as well. There's some of the water costs, what we use for the analysis, and the flow rates. Those are just kind of typical low flow rates that are pretty standard these days. And let's jump to the next slide, and we'll kind of walk through what we say that break-even point is, or what our recommendation on a sizing of a cistern would be. So as you can see on the graph, it's fairly steep right off the bat. And then once you get to about 70% of the offset of the water usage, you start getting diminishing returns. So if you double the size of your tank, you're only seeing about a 10% decrease in the amount of potable water you're using, and then it falls off pretty quickly. So to use a 10,000 gallon cistern that we use for a lot of our calculations is getting you roughly 75% offset of what your potable water use would be. To get to that 100%, you have to go all the way up to 60,000 gallons. What that means is you're saving a ton of water coming into the summer and drawing down on that as the summer goes on during our dry months. So that's kind of where that diminishing return comes from.
I would add to this that in our notes, we indicated that the water might be reused for non-potable flush, vehicle wash, site maintenance. We did not include landscape irrigation in that calculation. And as a note for council, when we calculate irrigation supply or consumption on an evaporated rate model, for about 2.5 acres, which is really the area of new landscape on this project, new remediated landscape, at a maximum of 50% baseline. So if we take the baseline, which is grass, and we cut that in half, that's really what we're kind of obligated to deliver to you as a part of this project. During peak months, that ends up to be about 120,000 gallons a month. So carrying into June and July, you would really be obligated to begin to store 2 to 3 months worth of that supply ahead of moving into those seasons, moving into those months. So 120, 240, 360,000 gallons is exponentially larger than the 10,000 gallon tank that would be recommended for provisions for building and operations. And that's why that system is generally not included in these types of storage and supply systems.
Yeah, let's keep going and talk about the next item, and then we'll stop for questions.
So the next item, and it's related, would be emergency potable water storage. So storing water on site would increase the PSM building's emergency resiliency. A storage tank located with other mechanical systems at the operations building would enable water distribution for facility use during emergencies that affect the island's water supply. You can see in this diagram the location of a potential potable water tank located in the lower levels of the operations building, near where shown on the diagram that Tony mentioned a moment ago, filtration systems that could be piped into the operations building and the PSM building. Next slide.
And so if you look at the sizing and you take into account the purple pipe system or the flush water system, there's two different sizes we'd have to look at. If the emergency water storage did not include any of the flush valves or water or vehicle washing, well, we wouldn't look at the vehicle washing in any scenario because we could decide not to do that in those cases. But if it was just a potable usage only, that would come out to a 5,000 gallon tank for 7 days of storage. And if we don't have that non-potable system, it doubles that to a 10,000 gallon tank for 7 days of storage.
Right. So in this way, the rainwater harvesting and potable water storage begin to work hand in hand. Rainwater harvesting can help supply water for non-potable uses, limiting the amount that you would need to store for potable uses in emergencies. Next slide. So the three system sizes were studied to outline this, and as Tony just mentioned, we looked at no storage, and the non-potable water use, potable water use, and total water use in each category, the storage capacity, and then for no storage, there's zero system capital cost added. For potable, non-potable storage, we have 6,000 gallon potable water use, 4,200 gallons of potable water use, sorry, I had that backwards, for a total water use of about 10,200 gallons, with a storage capacity of about 10,000 gallons at a system capital cost of roughly $250,000. For potable water only, really looking at only trying to capture that 4,200 gallons, so 5,000 gallon tank, as Tony mentioned, suffices for a system capital cost of roughly $170,000. And this is, again, just a reminder, sizing that system in coordination with the rainwater harvesting system, but separate cisterns. And that's our last slide on the water harvesting or emergency water provisions.
Okay, we're going to open up to questions. I'm going to start off. I'm a little surprised between the cost between the potable and then stormwater, because this stormwater one required that filtration equipment that the potable didn't. And it didn't seem like the cost rose enough for that, because you also had to double the storage tank capacity. So that's in your number. But can you speak to the equipment that's required to filter that? Is that expensive equipment? Does it require a lot of labor, changing and cleaning the filters? Is that something that has to be done regularly?
It is a regular maintenance item to clean the filters. I wouldn't say that it's significant, but it is an item. They are pumps. It's hard to say on the cost side of things, but it is a cost in the system.
Are the pumps there on the potable side as well as the non-potable, or there's additional pumps on the non-potable side?
On the non-potable side, there's more. It's more about the filtration pumps and bringing things through. So it depends on how we design the system. But there is equipment that has to be built into the cost for the filtration of the non-potable system, which you wouldn't have for the potable system.
And did you have the labor for all this cleaning, the filtration and maintenance part built into your cost saving estimate?
The cost savings estimates are for construction and project costs only. These are not looking at total life cycle costs.
Okay, it's not operating.
No.
All right. Council, any other questions? Councilmember Weicker.
I think this one's for Jesse. Can you talk more about emergency operations? I like the idea of 7 days, and then this footnote of conservation could get us to 10 days or 2 weeks. Like, keenly aware of emergencies, natural and otherwise, and being on an island. Do you want to just talk about that?
Sure. As we began planning for the building, one of the areas of greatest vulnerability that we've experienced recently is water emergencies. We hope with the good work that we're doing, we will have fewer in our future, but during a catastrophic event, it's possible that our water system is impacted and the island is without water for a period of time. Our recommendation is to pursue some combination of water storage. If we're not ready to make a final design recommendation tonight, that's fine. But if you'd like to include it, it would continue to be part of the project, and we'd analyze it as the building proceeds to 60 and 90% design. But the staff are recommending some water storage capacity on site, just given our experiences in the last several years.
Okay, before I go to Councilmember Reynolds, can you, after he asks his question, tell me what the cost would be to be at 10,000 of potable instead of 5? Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, I'm a little confused, and I apologize, I'm slow to catch on here, but we talked about a non-potable system first, and thought I understood that. And then when we switched gears to talk about potable and non-potable, the second part of the water presentation, is that in addition to the stormwater system for purple pipes, or is it something instead of? I'm lost.
So the comparison between those different systems when we were talking about the potable.
Well, I think,
First we were talking about just non-potable, and we got that it saved us $38,000 a year, if I remember correctly. Then we later went to say, okay, now we move beyond that, and we're gonna jumble in potable. Is that an additional thing you're adding on the top? Or is it a different replacement for the first thing?
Why don't I have Aaron give you the summary of, I know it's been a little confusing. Sorry about that.
Maybe just be me, maybe everybody else gets it.
No, that's a good question. So the rainwater harvesting would not be used for potable water. It would only be used for non-potable sources. So right-sizing that to handle only those non-potable sources, then a companion to that, or in addition to that, would be right-sizing a tank to contribute to the potable water use of the building. It is possible to size a tank that would carry potable and non-potable water storage from a potable source. But I think what we've illustrated is that the roofs of the building hold the capacity to harvest water, so we wouldn't feel the need to encourage you to store that amount of purchased water for non-potable uses. However, the potable water use can really only come from city water sources.
I'll add another clarification that might help. Aaron, you talked about a filtration system with the rainwater system. That's not a filtration system that would make the water drinkable or potable. That's solely, that like cleans pollution or debris off of the roof going into the system. Can you say more there?
Yeah, the filtration systems to make sure we don't have leaves, debris, sand, things getting into the system that are gonna ruin the pipes, ruin the fixtures that we're pushing it in through. It's just to clean it enough so it could be considered a non-potable use. A purple pipe system is not drinkable.
Yeah, so when we would get the potable water from, we would bring it from the SPU system, we would store it on site for when we need it in an emergency.
Correct.
So can you bring up the slide again that had the 3 columns for there was potable only, potable and non-potable, something? Yeah, that one. So in that potable and non-potable scenario, is that still using roof stormwater to fill the non-potable tank? And is it 2 separate tanks that are part of the 10,000 gallon system? One half that is for potable and one half that's for non-potable?
No, thank you. I see the confusion. This was to illustrate the size of a tank that would be required and the system cost that would be required outside of the purchasing cost of the water itself. Were you to use a single potable source for both potable and non-potable uses?
Okay, so this tank that we're talking about in this slide is just saying, what do we want to do if we want to store water for both potable and non-potable purchases, or store purchased water to use for all purposes?
Correct.
And so there'd be, as I understand it, there'd be no point in doing this for the non-potable uses if we do the other one, the original one of non-potable stormwater collection.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Thanks, Craig. I was really struggling with the overlap on these. In fact, I don't even know if I'm ready to make a decision right now because it's It's confusing.
So the 250,000 is if you're not doing rainwater harvesting and you want to have water to flush toilets, the non-potable use, and the potable use is to drink water or wash your hands or take a shower,
Correct.
right? So we're talking about the types of systems in the building, but they're all using potable water to do their task, right? Potable water flushing a toilet, potable water coming out of a shower. It's just how many gallons of this stuff you want.
Correct.
So the question I asked you to answer is already answered, and it's the 250.
Yeah.
And that would give you the maximum amount of storage of potable water in the building for resiliency, not coming from stormwater. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So is
Okay,
the
so,
storm, is the
so to help counsel then, maybe you could just again elaborate on the interplay between this and the stormwater recapture, right? Because we could spend $250,000 and have no filtration equipment and 10,000 gallons of water for potable and non-potable uses in the building, right?
Yep.
Stored for an earthquake, all the water mains break, there's no water supply. Or you could combine this with stormwater in some way that you think is optimized. Could you speak to that?
Sure, just I'm going to combine two slides and apologize for the failure to sum this up in a single slide for you. When we looked at slide 16, which indicates a potential stormwater harvesting 20-year savings over cost of $38,000. That is the cost to you to utilize stormwater for all the water you're not touching or drinking. If we forward to slide 22, and we look at the potable only column, the potable only cost to you is $170,000 for that 5,000 gallon system. Now, combined with the $38,000 savings from using the non-potable rainwater, the cost to you is, for including these systems, is roughly $132,000. So there's a aggregate cost savings for combining the systems over using a single $250,000 system.
Well, let me just make a point, and I'll ask the council to think long and hard about this one, because the Public Works building that we're replacing is the first building in Washington State with a living roof. And I'm sure somebody sat there at that time when they built that and said, living roofs are the future of buildings. And here we are, talking about how that was maybe one of the poorest design choices at that time. Is there any sort of buyer's remorse with the stormwater recapture, or is this fully vetted? Right, like this is, nobody's gonna look back at this and say, we're spending $100,000 a year for people and personnel to clean filters, and this $38,000 of savings went poof, because it's, you know, it's offset by an operating cost that is expensive or high.
It's a proven method to reduce your potable water usage. Many clients, many cities rely on it to reduce, to help out in climates that don't have as much water as we do. We're lucky with the amount of potable water that we can have. So there is a lot of clients, a lot of cities that require a system like this or the technology like this to reduce the potable water needs in a building. That also means that there's been a lot of research and design around these. They are a proven technology. So I am not concerned that it's going to be outside the wheelhouse of, you know, a typical building maintenance staff to efficiently keep it up and running with, you know, nothing that's unexpected for the maintenance for a system like this.
So I'm guessing that your recommendation is, well, I don't want to guess. Tell me, what is your recommendation? From a resilience, cost, you know, efficiency, taxpayer money, you know, prudent use.
Our recommendation will be to include the rainwater harvesting in the project and also to store additional water,
5,000 gallons.
the 5,000 gallons.
Yeah. So
And council, I just want to take a moment here and explain that as we head into next year, presuming a successful ballot measure, we will be identifying items that when we go out to bid either through a traditional bid process or an alternative process that will be bid alternatives. So we will give ourselves some future flexibility if market conditions change to take things in or out. This system may be something that would be a bid alternative, I'm not sure yet. But I want to emphasize what I said a moment ago. Water resiliency is one of our highest priorities for this facility to operate. We feel pretty good with being powered, at least in the near term, by generators, but water has been a challenge for us, as you know.
Councilmember Reynolds.
I just want to ask about the water that feeds into the potable tank. Would the vision be you're constantly drawing on that water, so it's kind of cycling through all the time, or would it just have to be flushed every 3 months to make sure the water is fresh?
Cycling through. We would want to make sure that it's moving, that it's fresh, that we're not getting any bacteria growth or anything like that.
Okay, so all water that the city's using is going first into the potable tank and then being drawn from there to fulfill building needs in real time?
Correct.
Okay.
And there's
Well, it
different ways
seems
to do that too, whether you need.
For what it's worth,
I'll apologize.
the stormwater system looks like a total no-brainer to me. It's net positive and it's the environmentally and fiscally responsible thing to do. The potable water system, and I don't see a need for the middle column on the other slide if we've done the stormwater system. The potable thing seems like it's not an environmental savings nor a cost savings, but it is a resiliency issue that is prudent, so I would be supportive of that as well.
Okay, we're going to take them together potentially. Councilmember Weicker?
Yeah, I'll just say, it makes infinite sense to take a natural resource and put it to reuse. And it seems like it would fit our sustainability goals. And since we have Alana in the room, I wonder if our sustainability manager wants to say a word, or Jesse, but this seems to fit with our climate action goals in a way that makes a lot of sense and is cost effective and future proofing and not going to be a green roof down the road. Just plenty of cities are using it, and I like this idea, and it feels like the right thing to do, and it looks like the right thing to do. So Alana, not to put you on the spot, but I love putting you on the spot.
Well, I can say that we don't have any specific goals in the climate action plan around water use, but it is definitely a sustainability issue and is very important, and it's something we, have dealt with in various ways with water emergencies recently. So water conservation is huge, and this would be a really exciting thing for the city. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Does our code allow this currently? Do we have to change the code to allow stormwater reuse? No? It's available for any resident to do as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Council, do you want to take thumbs up for the combined stormwater, potable water first? Yep. All right. Thumbs up for that. Looks like you got support for that.
We have a few more slides, and then we will be wrapping up for tonight.
The last item to present as an overview is a look at the facility structural systems being considered. So the proposed structural systems that we visited with you about months ago included mass timber, concrete, and steel. We'll do an overview of those again. And one of the conversations we had at that time, actually a very productive conversation, was utilizing a hybrid approach across this site. And that approach actually allows us to continue to control capital costs and let each piece of structure respond to its specific conditions. The selection of any structural system for a building is based on a wide range of factors, including site conditions, functional requirements, facility type requirements, load and seismic analysis, availability, environmental impact, building codes, and system cost. For review, the factors listed above are consolidated into 4 considerations. The first is applicability for a risk category 4 structure, with which this is. The second is achieving the spans required for efficient layouts and use, because we have some very, very big vehicles, a lot of parking requirements, and that's one of the toughest areas to structure. The overall cost of the system and alignment with climate action plans adopted by the municipality. Next slide. So if we take a look at the 3 primary structural systems, mass timber, steel, and concrete, and we just look at them against those 4 categories, each one of the systems is capable of supporting risk category 4 structures. Each one of them can achieve the necessary spans. Mass timber and steel at this time operate plus or minus 4% of each other in terms of cost for superstructure, not including some of the accessory elements required for each, while concrete operates at a slightly higher cost than both of those. Mass timber aligns with some of the climate action plan goals. Steel may align depending on the forging methods and emission controls used during production. And concrete structures may utilize various manufacturing strategies to reduce GHG impacts, but may not fully align with climate action plan policy targets. Next system, next slide. So the proposal across the site that we're going to study between now and when we come back to you for the schematic design presentation will include cast-in-place concrete construction illustrated within the gray shaded areas in this diagram. Now, this would be utilized for select project retaining structures, facility foundations, and the ground floor of the operations building. So that's the warehouse floor of the operations building. And really, so the concrete takes place at locations that are underground, where we're trying to hold back a substantial amount of earth, where we're trying to hold up the weight of the building, or where we're in areas where they run the high risk of getting bumped by a 20-year-old driving a very big, heavy truck.
Never happens.
Next slide. Mass timber construction, illustrated within the tan shaded areas, would be utilized as the primary structural system for the PSM building, weathering covers across operational areas, and the second floor and roof of the operations building. This allows us to take advantage of that system's cost, local sourcing, and the potential duration savings that we see across mass timber projects for speed of erection. Next slide. For steel or steel and timber hybrid structures, we're looking at the structures located in the lower and upper yards, in the blue shaded areas in this diagram. These include things like the vehicle wash bay, weathering covers in those areas, and the decant facility and its canopy. Those areas really operate with a bit more changeability. So, for example, as material is stored in the lower yard and ecology blocks are used to kind of hold that material in, as those blocks need to be shifted around, sometimes those canopies may need to be added onto, may need to work around those. So operating in a condition with steel in that location makes more sense from an impact standpoint and just a long-term longevity standpoint. And that was the overview on potential structural systems.
Okay. Council, any questions on that? No direction needed on that, so we appreciate your time tonight.
That is all we have.
Okay, moving on then.
Thank you.
We now move to other business in the planning schedule. We welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
Sure. Thanks again, Council, for your discussion tonight. Just wanted to call out May 20th, we have a very important finance presentation. It's our year-end update, our Q1 update, and a revised financial forecast. That's also the evening that I'll be coming back to you with a work plan update discussion for 2025-26. And we don't have as many legislative session follow-on items this year, thankfully, so that part of that presentation will be brief. And last but not least, a reminder that you'll be making your board and commission appointments on the 20th. And that is all I have for you this evening.
Okay, Council, any upcoming absences to report? All right, Councilmember reports. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
I have nothing to report. Councilmember Weicker? Councilmember Weinberg?
Just that the next monthly open brunch will be at 10 a.m. on Sunday, May 18th at Pogacha. The address is 2707 78th Avenue Southeast. As always, all are welcome. It's an open agenda, news, sports, weather, humor, even city business if you want. All I ask is that everyone shows their respects to the chef by ordering some food and or beverage, and let me know if you're coming so I can reserve a large enough table.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds?
Just want to note the Parks and Rec Commission meeting met last week. It was a relatively uneventful meeting with the annual report from the parks staff to the commission. Everybody was suitably impressed about everything staff is doing. And then they had an overview of the Clark and Groveland Beach infrastructure plan process, which was very similar to one that had gone to council a couple of weeks before, if I recall correctly.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Anderall.
Nothing to report.
All right, the next regular scheduled hybrid city council meeting will be on Tuesday, May 20th, beginning at 5 p.m. The city council will now go into executive session for approximately 1 hour to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate or lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause the likelihood of increased price pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101B, and to discuss with legal counsel pending or potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101I. The time is now 6:53 p.m. As a reminder to council, please stay seated until the broadcast has been terminated. Thanks for joining us tonight.